Ahmed Adog is a Palestinian journalist and the co-founder of We Are Not Numbers, whose book of the same name tells the story of young Gazans in their own words. He's also has an extreme story of personal loss in this war, and he joins me in the studio now. Ahmed, it's good to see you. I was aware of you because you tweeted in April of last year on X, you posted on X, I blame you, Piers Morgan, me, for their murder and the murder of all innocent people in Gaza. This came after news of you losing a huge number of your family in an airstrike. First of all, my deepest condolences to you over the loss of your family members. And second, I would never judge anyone who fires off intemperate thoughts in a moment. So I didn't take that personally. Thirdly, I was getting that from quite a few people. A lot of those people now are praising me because they think I've switched sides. And to be clear with you, I don't take sides. I never have done. I've tried to platform people on both sides throughout this whole war. I think that's been really important. But it's good to see you in the studio and to meet. We don't know each other. First of all, when you posted that to me, why did you post that? Why did you blame me for what had happened to your family?
Well, thank you for having me first, and thank you for having so many Palestinians on your show. I don't think you can blame me for saying this to you, Piers, because you and I are journalists, and we know how important the role of journalists in this world is. And I've known you for a long time, and I have been following you for a long time. And I have always looked at you as this prominent British journalist. You're one of the most prominent journalists in the world. And then October the 7th happened, and I was watching how you covered the news in Gaza. And you were very angry at this October the 7th, and that's okay. You have the right to be angry at October the 7th.
Were you?
Yes.
You were?
Yes.
You were angry at what Hamas did that day?
Yes, I was.
Israeli people? The slaughter, the mayhem, the murder, the kidnapping of babies and Holocaust. This is one of the things I kept asking all the Palestinian guests, which is probably why you had a view that somehow I was against the Palestinian people. I wasn't, but I was certainly against anyone that wouldn't absolutely, unreservedly condemn what Hamas did that day. That had to be a starting point for any constructive conversation.
Okay, so you've said that for a long, long time. We have been talking about that for 20
But why would that be wrong?
Months. It's not wrong to feel angry about what happened. I wholeheartedly stand against harming civilians. All of my work, all of my life, all of my principles is against harming any civilians, whoever they are. I'm against all of that. But my problem, Piers, is that I have looked a lot for you. And then for the past 20 months, you have been repeating this over and over and over and over again, as if October the 7th was the beginning of everything. And you never looked at what happened before October the 7th and what happened 20 months after October the 7th.
The thing is, Ahmed, I never took a view that anything that happened on either side before October the 7th could possibly justify what Hamas did that day. There is no justification for that scale of terrorist attack. None. Nada. Nothing. So I wasn't prepared to countenance anyone sitting on that chair or in any other location I was in, who if I said to them, do you condemn what Hamas did? If they refused to answer, then I would challenge them angrily about that, as I would do the other way round, as I am now about what Israel's been doing. So I campaigned against the Iraq war, right? When I was editor of the Daily Mirror, I campaign against things I think are wrong. And I will challenge and harangue people when I think they're supporting things that are wrong. So I'm just curious, though, why you've made it so personal against me. Do you blame me for the loss of your loved ones? I didn't understand that.
Okay. So everyone appreciates that you stood up against the war in Iraq. We also wanted you to stand up against the genocide that is taking place in Gaza. And you changed your talks recently, and I appreciate that. I love that. But please remember that, Piers, bad journalism kills. Bad journalism kills people. You know that Israel could not carry out a genocide in Gaza without the justification of the mainstream media. And unfortunately, I don't blame you specifically for the murder of my family.
Well, you did.
I blame all of the mainstream media on the murder of my family, and you were one of them. Unfortunately,
well, you blame me personally.
I blame you personally as one of the mainstream media who justified the murder of the Palestinians and dehumanized the Palestinians.
I never justified the murder of Palestinians. I only said...
Not directly, indirectly.
I only said that I believed Israel had a fundamental right and duty to defend its people after that appalling attack, a series of attacks, particularly as Hamas, through its official spokesman on camera, had said they were prepared and wanted to do this again and again and again.
Well, the thing is,
you talk about genocide,
Yeah.
that is genocide. That is actually what genocide is. When you want to kill as many Jews as you can kill.
that's the problem, Piers.
Yeah, but that is genocide.
No, that is the problem. You always say that they want to kill the Jews.
They
Piers,
do.
That is dangerous. You and I know that.
But they do.
Our problem is not against
don't make
the
any-
Jews.
they don't make any secret of it.
No. Our problem is not with the Jews. And even Hamas' problem is not with the Jews. It is with the
Well,
Israelis.
why do they kill so many Jews then?
They did not kill Jews, they killed Israelis. And I don't justify killing of Israel. It's not that I want them to kill Israelis.
What
But there's a
religion do you
huge
suspect
difference.
most of the Israelis were?
It doesn't matter. But
does matter.
No, it makes a huge difference. They were not attacked because they were Jews. They were attacked because they were Israelis. It's a huge difference.
Well, how many of the people who were killed? How many of the people who were killed were not Jewish?
It doesn't matter. But would you like?
Of course, it matters.
No, it matters. Let me ask you a question. So many Palestinians were killed. Thousands of Palestinians were killed. Would you call Israel killed the Muslims in Gaza? You would say the Palestinians. And the Israelis were Israelis. They were not there as Jews. They were there as Israelis. And that is dangerous, Piers. It's not a religious war. This is a war between colonization and colonized, occupiers and occupied. People who have been living under blockade, under siege, under occupation for the past 77 years. It's not with the Jews. We never had a problem with the Jews. We love the Jews as much as we love the Christians.
But you have a problem with Israelis?
Of course, we have a problem with the Israelis as occupiers.
How can you say you have no problem with the Jews, but you have a problem with the Israelis, given that most Israelis are Jewish?
I'm just astonished that you can't make the difference between the Jews and the Israelis, Piers. It's a huge difference.
Most of them are Jewish.
Yes.
You know that.
Yes, but they're called Israelis.
I'm astonished
not Jews.
you would try and draw a distinction.
There's a huge difference.
Hamas don't give a damn about whether they're Israelis or anything else. They care about killing Jews. They made it no secret.
No, listen. I am the last person on earth to defend Hamas.
Good.
But just because I don't like Hamas, that does not make me like amplify and exaggerate in their in what they think and lie about them. Do you know Ahmed Yassin, the founder of Hamas? Do you know him?
Not personally.
No, he was the founder of Hamas, and he was known as handicap who Israel killed. But anyway, he was once asked, what is your problem with the Jews? And he said it clearly, and I'm quoting him, I don't have a problem with the Jews. If my brother, if my cousin occupied my country and killed me, I would have a problem with them. The problem with the Palestinians is against Zionism, against Zionists, against Israelis.
So why did they kill innocent Israeli people then? Innocent women, children, grandmothers.
Don't ask me that question.
Why did they kidnap babies? Why did they kidnap Holocaust survivors?
Ask them. Don't ask me. I'm not one of them.
You're trying to explain their ideology, and I'm telling you, they are an undisguised death cult.
It all makes difference.
Intent on killing as many Jews as they can kill.
It's dangerous when you make this religious war.
It's dangerous when you try and pretend they're not after killing Jews.
Of course not. They're not, Piers. Come on. They're after killing.
Come on. You don't think Hamas target Jews?
Of course
because
not.
they're Jewish?
Of course not.
It's nonsense.
No, it's
Ahmed.
not. I'm surprised that you're saying this, Piers. Genuinely, I'm surprised. There's a huge difference.
You're surprised that I think Hamas target Jewish people?
Of course. Of course I am.
I find that staggering, Ahmed.
Why?
Because it's obviously a ridiculous thing to say.
Why?
Because obviously they target and murder as many Jewish people as they can get their hands on.
Of course not.
And you say it's because they're Israelis, not Jewish.
Because they're occupiers. Because they occupied our country.
And they're Jewish.
No, just because they occupied our country. Because they're colonizers. Because they came to our country, kicked us out in 1948, and they killed thousands of Palestinians, including my grandparents.
But you know why Israel was set up. It was set up after World War II, in which Jewish people were the victims of an appalling Holocaust by Hitler and the Nazis, where 6 million of them were exterminated purely because of their ethnicity and being Jewish.
That's correct.
So the Jewish people were given the state of Israel.
My country.
Well, okay, I understand that. Listen, I understand that argument. I understand the whole history and the whole argument. But it wasn't Israelis given that place. It was the Jewish people.
Yeah, but who are you to give the Jewish people my country?
I'm not giving it to them.
I'm not talking about you personally. Yeah. I'm talking about those who send the Zionists to come and kill our families and take our lands. We have a problem with the occupiers, Piers. We don't have a problem with the Jews. Actually, I work with the Jews. Like, we are not numbers. The mentor coordinator is Jewish. The chair is Jewish.
Tell me quickly about your book.
Well, this book, it's called We Are Not Numbers, the same name of my organization. And in this book, we tell the human stories behind the siege, behind the statistics, behind the numbers that we often see in the news. It is composed of 74 stories written by young people in Gaza, telling their personal stories to the world in a language that the world understands.
How many members of your family have you lost in this war?
I have no idea. I swear. But I just know that.
But tell me some of them.
I will tell you that on October 2023, my family were sleeping in their home. My father, my 2 brothers, my 3 sisters, and all of their children. 14 nieces and nephews were sleeping, and my cousin. And Israel just dropped a bomb on my family home, killing all of them.
Killed all of them?
All of them. My father, who was 75 years old, my brother, and my younger brother, who was 25 years old, and he was so happy at that time he got a scholarship to do his master's degree in Australia. My 3 sisters, one is a computer engineer, another one is an accountant, another one is a teacher, and 14 kids were slaughtered in my home, Piers. 14 kids, ranging from 2 to 13 years old. They all had lives, they had dreams, they had the future ahead of them. And they did not hurt the Israelis, did not cause them any damage. They were killed as they were sleeping. Do you know my brother-in-law, when he went to this home to retrieve the bodies of his children, he told me that he could not recognize the faces of his children because all of them were torn into body parts. My older sister, Wala, who was a computer engineer, they found the upper half of her body thrown in my neighbor's home. What did she do? She and all of her children. My other sister, she and all of her children. My other sister, she and all of her children. All of them were killed. After that, how many cousins did I lose? I have no idea. How many relatives, how many friends? Yes, for the past 20 months, the people in Palestine, in Gaza, they have been besieged from all sides. And they have been bombed day and night without a moment.
I know, and as you know, I've made it clear, I think this has gone on way too far now. It's completely disproportionate what Israel's done. The blockade was shameful, almost certainly a war crime. This has to stop. My heart goes out to you genuinely.
Thank you.
For what's happened to your family. It's appalling, and like I say, I don't take it personally that you lashed out at me. I would question why, but I don't take it personally that you did that. I'm glad we've met. I'm very sorry about what's happened to your family.
Thank you.
I would ask you maybe one question, which is simply, do you blame Hamas at all for bringing the onslaught onto the people of Gaza with what they did on October the 7th? Do you not think that they knew when they did that exactly how Israel would respond?
I have no idea what Hamas thought of when they did the 7th of October. I just know that Israel killed my family, and I know who killed my family. Israel. It was an F-16 that dropped a bomb on my family home, killing all my family. It was Israel who killed my mother 5 years ago. Do you know how? By not allowing her to receive a treatment for her cancer. They died. She died waiting to travel to a Palestinian hospital in the West Bank to receive a treatment, and she died. I just know that Israel starved the rest of the Palestinian people. I know whose weapons are. I know these planes, who they belong to. I know these weapons.
No, I understand it, but I wonder whether you just think that what Hamas did was so heinous on such a spectacular scale that the leaders of Hamas knew that Israel would have to respond with enormous force. And they did. And a lot of your family were killed in the response that came. I'm not taking a side. I'm not trying to justify it.
Yes.
I'm just saying Hamas would have known exactly what was going to come back when they did what they did. And I just wonder whether, as you blame a lot of people, Israel, me, others, whoever, does any part of you also blame Hamas?
Piers, I don't know what Hamas thought when they did the 7th of October, but I know who killed my family. I know who starved the Palestinian people. I know who started all of this problem in the Nakba 77 years ago when they took away my homeland. I'm a refugee, Piers Morgan, and I know all of the evil in the world starts from the root causes, which is the occupation. Enough, Piers. We need to live in dignity.
I agree with you.
Live in freedom.
Listen,
is it too much to ask for freedom?
Ahmed, I agree with you. You should have exactly the same rights. All Palestinians should have the same human rights as Israelis, as me, as anybody else. I think there should be a two-state solution where Palestine has its own state, exactly as Israel does. I've said that from the start, and I hope we get to that place, and I hope this war and the suffering and the appalling experience that you and your family have had to endure is brought to an end, and that finally we can get to some peace in this very long-running, awful conflict. It's very good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
You speak very eloquently about it, and I completely understand why you feel so passionately. I'd feel exactly the same way if it was my family.
I really hope your family and the families of our listeners and viewers don't experience what I have experienced, because it is absolutely horrific, and no one should ever experience that. And I really wonder, Piers, finally, if you were a Palestinian, if you lived under occupation your entire life, if you never had a passport, if you could not travel, if there were some foreigners who came to your country, stole it, and they controlled your life, your entire life, what would you do?
I wouldn't like it.
Because we need help.
I wouldn't like it. I don't think I would commit a terrorist attack, and I think that was an unforgivable act that day
What would you do?
by Hamas. I don't know the answer to that question, and it's a good question. It's an important question, and I don't know the answer. I don't think you know until you're in the shoes that the Palestinian people were in. I do know that what was going on was an oppression of the Palestinian people. I do believe it was a form of occupation. I do think it has to end, and Israel should not be able to exercise that kind of power over what happens to the Palestinian people. And the Palestinian people should have the same human rights as they do and I do. I've got to leave it there, Ahmed, but it's good to meet you. I'm glad you came in and we did this face to face.
Thank you very much.
Come back again.
Of course. Thank you.